In this video, I'm going to give you 3 simple rules to structure your training to build any muscle in the most effective way possible. Okay, just a quick intro to give you a few rules before we get into structuring your training. So first of all, don't overcomplicate things. Like I said, this is going to be a really simple guide and we're going to strip it back to basics with your training. You have to remember that muscle is built through novel stimulus, and that's just a fancy way of saying new ways to challenge the muscle. And in order to get the most out of this way of training, we're going to cut back the junk volume. And by that, basically, I mean just any sets that are not challenging the muscle in that novel way. Now, you might find to start with that actually on this program, you're doing less work in the gym than you used to. But don't stress out, that's okay, because the work that you're going to do is going to be intelligently thought out and it's going to be intense. Okay, it's time to grab a pen and paper because we're going to get into my 3 rules. So for each muscle group, I want you to do the following. Number 1, you're going to choose one exercise that allows you to add the most load to the working muscle as possible, i.e., lift as much weight as possible. Now, on this movement in particular, as well as the other ones that we do, you're going to want to focus on progressive overload, which is just a fancy way of saying adding more weight over time on any given movement. Now, as long as this is safe and controlled and your form is kept tight, this is necessary for muscle growth. Now, particularly on this movement, we want to keep the volume quite low, but actually to start with the whole program, it wants to be low volume because you want to establish a base level of strength and build on there. And what I mean by low volume is low amount of sets, really. So just 1 to 2 sets per exercise, especially on this first one, where the load is going to be a bit heavier. And really, you don't want to add any more sets until that load has been nearly maxed out. Now, in terms of rep range, you want to be on the lower side of a hypertrophy rep range here. So for upper body, 6 to 10 reps. For lower body, 8 to 12. Now, generally, this is going to be a compound movement. So, for example, if you're working chest, this is probably going to be a barbell or a dumbbell bench press. Okay, number 2, you're going to choose one exercise which allows you to work the muscle in a really controlled, stable environment, or a movement that allows you to isolate that muscle altogether. Now, on this one, you're going to want to choose an exercise that allows you for extra stability or where secondary muscle groups are less of a consideration. Now, this is generally best if it's a machine movement. So again, for chest, think cable flies, pec deck, or machine press. Okay, last but not least, and I think a lot of programs are missing this. Number 3, you're going to want to choose one exercise that allows you to put the most emphasis in the stretch position of the movement. And this is going to be best if the muscle is working against gravity. So a muscle worked under load in a deep stretch, again, as long as it's controlled, is going to allow for maximum muscle growth, especially when you're combining it with progressive overload, with controlled movements as part of a complete program. And so for a maximum effect, you also want to hold that stretch position for 1 second before completing each rep. So back to our chest example, a dumbbell fly is the perfect choice for this. It's going to be better than the machine fly because gravity is pulling back on you, and it's going to allow a greater stretch than like a dumbbell press or a machine press. Okay, just to recap and make this super simple, I'm going to give you another example with biceps. So number 1, an exercise that allows for maximum load. So this might be a barbell curl or even a dumbbell hammer curl. And I'll probably work in the 8 to 10 rep range for this one. Number 2, you want an exercise that allows you for a controlled or an isolated movement. So for this, I'm going to choose a cable curl or even a 1-arm cable curl. And I'm going to go for 12 to 14 reps in this one, so a little bit higher. Then number 3, an exercise which puts the most emphasis in the stretch position of the movement. So for this one, my favorite one is an incline bicep curl with your arm behind you. You're going to hold it for 1 second at the bottom of each rep. And we're going to do an 8 to 10 rep range again for this one. So there you have it, a super simple guide on how to structure your training for each muscle group. If you're still confused, you can go to my website, themusclearchitect.com, and get your own custom training and diet plan, or be coached by me on a month-to-month basis to make sure that you're not missing any steps and you're getting the most out of your training. If you enjoyed this video, click subscribe, click like, do all that nice YouTube stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.